Sentinels is a visual novel / real-time strategy mecha game from Vanillaware. It's been out for a while on the PS4, but it's only dropped in the Switch in the last couple of weeks or so. So I thought I'd give it a review on there.
I repeat, we interrupt this program to bring you an important emergency broadcast. A large unidentified object has crash-landed in the city. It is headed north toward Kasumijo, destroying everything in its path. A state of emergency has been declared in Ashitaba City. The neighboring 3 wards are advised to evacuate immediately.
The game also incorporates time travel into its sci-fi elements, and it'll have you bouncing around scenes set during the Second World War and into the future of 2065 and 2105. Each of the 13 characters has a Sentinel, and the character arcs all revolve around them summoning theirs to help fight the kaiju. The story isn't told in a linear fashion, switching between different characters at different times, and also through different stages of the eventual final defense of the city.
It's really happening. Just as you said. A kaiju attacked, like in that movie. So we'll do what we have to do. Get in the robots and fight.
This is where 13 Sentinels differs itself from other visual novels. It has a real-time strategy element to it. Called Destruction Mode, you can play out the last-ditch defense of the city in a similar episodic manner to the Story Mode, which is called Remembrance. There's also a third section called Analysis, which just documents everything you've experienced so far in the other 2 sections. In Destruction, you pick 6 of the pilots to hold off waves of kaiju from a terminal which is counting down to activation. You can clear the missions by either killing all the kaiju or holding them off long enough for the terminal to activate its Aegis mode and sweep the map clear of all enemies. You've 4 different types of Sentinels taken from different time periods, and each one is effective against a certain type of enemy. I've read a lot of complaints about the strategy element being the weakest part, but I actually quite enjoyed it. The abstract visuals are supported by some fantastic sound design and a killer soundtrack. The combat has a nice meaty element to it, and it's a little simplistic at times. Some of the missions can be ridiculously easy, but they're always fun. Balancing out the different Sentinels and their abilities can be interesting, but there's not a lot of depth to them, and the biggest difference you'll be dealing with is pretty much which Sentinels can fly and which ones have the most health.
Where?
But the combat isn't the main focus of the game. That's the story mode, and it's absolutely brilliant. Look, even if you're not into visual novels, or if you're looking for a gateway drug into visual novels, this will have you hooked. There's just the right amount of interactivity to keep the story compelling while also not distracting from it. That's a fine line to walk, and 13 Sentinels does it perfectly. The story is paced so well, and all the chapters are just long enough to convey a decent amount of information, but short enough not to drag on. The short chapter length also has the side effect of needing to drop constant hints about where the story is going, and this helps keep you interested in really thinking about what's going on as you piece the storylines together. Speaking of storylines, how they have managed to have 13 of them and knit them together so well is a wondrous achievement. Vanillaware really have got a pedigree of tying together huge amounts of story threads from their previous games like Dragon's Crown, but nothing on this scale. There's a brief hour or so in the middle when all the disparate threads seem to be getting out of control, but it's fleeting, and the way they come together is really special. There's such a depth to the characters, and not just the main ones either. Backing up our 13 mains is a cast of even more interesting side characters that include, but are not limited to, a sentient AI, an imaginary friend, a famous pop idol that communicates only through a TV, and a psychotic talking cat. All of these alternative agendas feed brilliantly into the main characters' ones, helping to give the story a real traction and life. To even attempt a game with 13 narratives is one thing, but to have them running parallel and to be so compelling is a truly amazing feat of storytelling.
I'll just take a peek. Juro Izumi? It's my photo, but the last name is wrong. I'm Juro Kurabe. Symptoms. Psyche stabilized via drug administration. Patient is obedient. General good health. Drugs, huh?
Oh, Kurabe-kun.
Graphics-wise, the 2D art style is incredible and one that Vanillaware have really made their own. But Vanillaware also have a particular unique ability to farcically undermine their own storytelling and visuals with some utterly preposterous character design. particularly the female characters. One is modelled to such absurd proportions that, even right up until the end, I laughed every time she appeared on screen, and it completely ruined any impact she was meant to have, and she's meant to have it quite a bit. Another is modelled in such a way that's completely at odds with how she's written. She's written as a shy wallflower with such a timid nature and lack of self-confidence that, in less than a minute, she ends up being manipulated into systematically shooting a dozen people by a fucking cat. But her model has her in a short pleated skirt with lace-top thigh-highs. In other words, the total opposite of how somebody with her personality would dress. There's also the obligatory character who panty shots every time she falls over, although thankfully this only happens a handful of times and it doesn't approach Danganronpa levels. All of which leads me to the crowning fanservice item. All of the characters have to pilot their mechs naked. This also leads to some very showy portraits during the conversations in the battle section. There's just no reason why they need to be nude to pilot the fucking mechs. I mean, the game does offer one, which I can't reveal without major spoilers, but then they contradict it by having the most fanservicey character keep her clothes on while she's in the mech. Although the angles on her portrait leave so little to the imagination, you wonder why they bothered. Look, I've no real issue with fanservice, but if you're massively undermining your own work, there needs to be some dialing back on it. And this is a shame, as this is literally the only major demerit that this game has. I've hunted through this game for things to complain about, and I can't find any.
These days.
Aren't we going home?
Why not get a
Wrong
game
way,
pass?
man.
What's going on?
This is bad.
Sentinel number 13. Transmitting.
Don't tell me. Are you?
What was that?
Over there.
Wait, what the heck? Is that a robot?
He summoned a sentinel. Wait. It looks different.
That's...
In conclusion, if you're apprehensive about this game being so story focused or are concerned that it's nothing but convoluted anime nonsense, then please allow me to put your mind at ease. You're right. It is massively story focused, and the story does stray into convoluted anime nonsense territory, but trust me, it's for the best here. All of the stories connect up and they make sense at the end in a very satisfying way. There's a real depth to the writing here. It's not a game that uses confusion as a substitute for depth. I can't recommend this game enough. It's a really rare thing to play a game like this where you know there's not going to be another like this for a while, or possibly ever. The bite-sized chapters are compelling, the combat's thrilling, and the story has so many twists and turns that you never know when there's going to be some huge revelation to turn everything on its head. Now, outside of some truly cringe-worthy female characters, the artwork is beautiful and the Hitoshi Sakamoto soundtrack is excellent. This was such a great game on the PS4 and it's got a new lease of life on the Switch, and it deserves to be played by everybody.